Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Contour's Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I would like to say a very warm akwaba to you and Afishiapa. Yes, dearest friends and family, we are getting to the end of the year and it is the season to be jolly. And to be jolly, we need some good jollof experience. So here I am here sharing with you the ultimate party goat meat jollof experience. Come along with me and let's do this. So here are the ingredients you are going to need, and as always, everything is going to be listed in the description box for you in their rightful weighted quantities. So to start, I'm going to toast my spices. I'm going to be using some Calabash, nutmeg, anise, coriander seeds, and fennel seeds. You can most certainly use these without toasting them. They are good, but even better when you toast it, because toasting helps release the oils in these seeds and that intensifies the flavor. And of course, this is no mean jollof. This is special jollof, and as such, everything has to be done going the extra mile. Once the fragrance of your spices begin to hit your nose, you should know it is done. This should take no more than 2 minutes. Most likely a minute to a minute and a half, depending on how hot the pan is before you put your spices in, and of course the heat applied to it. And once it's done, remove from the fire. I would recommend that you transfer it from your pan into another container so that it will stop the cooking process, because the hot pan is still going to toast it from the residual heat and you don't want that. I'm done with that, and I'm going to start washing my fresh ingredients so we can start making our stew. First off is my tomatoes. Now I'll wash my bell peppers. So that's a lot of peppers. I'm going to make this jollof with vegetables, but I'm also going to add some of these peppers in the stew as well for extra flavor. I'll be using a combination of shallots and red onions. The shallots I intend to blend, and that will go into the stew base. And I'm going to use some of the red onions to marinate the meat and cook it.
Delicious, yeah, yeah, delicious, da da, delicious, yeah, yeah, delicious, da da da, delicious, delicious, da da, delicious, yeah, yeah, delicious. Can you smell the aroma? Yeah, from Quanchiwa's kitchen, yeah, da da, delicious, yeah, yeah, delicious.
In my blender is 2 chopped red onions, and I'm going to be adding my toasted spices to that. Add a little bit of water, and I'm going to blend this.
Delicious. Delicious.
My goat meat is pre-washed, and to that I am going to add my blended onions and spices. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of garlic paste. This I pre-make. So it's 1 cube of that. And I'm also going to add a tablespoon of blended ginger, also pre-made. Add some salt. Stir to evenly coat your meat. Cover and bring this to a boil. So in the spirit of the holiday and knowing that most of us are going to be doing bulk cooking, I'm going to be making a lot of tomato stew because we are cooking a lot of jollof. And also I'm bearing in mind that if it was a real party day and I was making jollof, I was certainly not going to make only jollof. Most likely I'll be making some wachi or something else, another tomato stew based recipe. So I'm making a lot of stew for this purpose, and so I'm going to be toasting or roasting, I should say. I'll be oven roasting my ingredients. That speeds up the cooking process instead of boiling tomatoes, over the stove to cook it all the way down before you start. You could use your pre-made tomato puree if you have already done that in your freezer. I don't have it. And of course, toasting is also going to give you just a different taste in your jollof. So if you want to have something that tastes a little different from your everyday jollof, then maybe you would want to use this process as well. So I'm going to be roasting 1 large orange red bell pepper, 1 large yellow one, my shallots, and my tomatoes. And for the tomatoes, I'm going to deseed them first. The goat meat has cooked for about half hour now, so let's see how it's doing. Yes, trust me, it is smelling amazing. Yes, very good. And I didn't add any water in the beginning, just what I used to blend my ingredients, my spices and onions. And of course, the meat has pulled out its own juices, and that is what is cooking it at this point. But we need a little bit more water for it to cook through and soften up. So I've added about a cup of water now. I'm going to mix this, cover it, and let it cook for about another 40 minutes before we start frying it or anything. So back to my vegetables, and I've added about half a teaspoon of salt. I'm also going to be adding some fresh oregano and basil from my garden. In goes the oregano, yes, and basil. And trust me, if you're thinking this is going to be good, yes, it is going to be good. I can guarantee you that aroma, flavor, taste, everything is going to be check, 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 okay? I'm also going to add about half a teaspoon of black pepper. And some avocado oil. You are going to roast this, so you need a little bit of oil to help the roasting process. Mix it to get everything very well combined. Mix so all your salt and pepper and oil covers every ingredient in here. And that is it. A beautiful blend, a perfect marriage between everything here. Real friendship, real communion, real fellowship. Is this not gorgeous? Yes, gorgeous, and definitely going to be good. This I'm going to bake in my oven, which I've preheated to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to roast or bake for a full hour. To start the stew, I'll be blending 2 large onions, 2 peppers, as well as the seeds and juices from the tomatoes.
Delicious. Delicious.
It's been an extra 40 minutes since I added the water to the goat meat, and I think it is time to bring it out and start frying it. If you prefer your meat to be on the softer side, then definitely give it an extra maybe 25 minutes or 20 minutes, and that should do it. So I'm going to transfer the meat into a colander, that way it drains off all the juices before I start frying it in the hot oil. And my juices I'll set aside, and that is going to go in the jollof when we start making it. So in another pot, I'm going to put some oil and let it heat up, and then I'll start frying my meat. Your meat will also turn out perfect if at this point you choose to oven bake it instead of frying it.
From what she was kitchen, delicious, yeah, delicious, delicious, yeah, delicious,
Once your meat is golden on all sides like this, it is time to bring it out of the oil. Just look at that. Just look at that. Okay, just be careful. Don't disgrace yourself. Oh. Don't sit there and eat all this meat and then your guests come and there's almost no meat in that jollof, okay? By all means, resist that temptation, okay? Flee from it. So our meat is all removed and I'm going to add one large onion which I have sliced in the oil, and that is going to be here to cook for about 3 minutes until it's a little sweaty. I'm not going to let it go all the way to caramelization because all those bits from the goat meat is here already. It has a lot of flavor from the seasoning as well, and cooking it for too long is going to end up burning my oil anyway. So about 3 minutes later, I'm adding my curry powder. This is about 4 teaspoons of curry powder. I love curry. If you don't like curry, you can leave it out, or you can reduce the amount if you don't want it too strong in here. It's not going to overpower anything anyway, but you will taste the curry in the stew. So that cooks for a little bit and I'm adding the rest of my garlic paste. This is about 1 teaspoon left. Remember, I have about a tablespoon on the meat and so on the stock as well, and this is going to also end up eventually in my stew. So this is perfect. And when you are cooking for a big group of people, you always want to be a little bit mindful about the fact that other people don't like very intense flavors. So I always try to minimize the spices and the seasonings in food, especially when you are cooking for a large group of people, unless you know their taste preferences, okay? So my garlic paste has cooked in the oil for about 2 minutes. I've added my blended tomato seeds and juice, onion and pepper in here, and I'm also going to add my bay leaves. I have 4 fresh bay leaves here, and I'm going to cover this and let it cook. Time to put the tomato paste in here. So the onions and tomato seeds have cooked for and peppers have cooked for about 5 minutes now. I'm going to add my tomato paste. Stir to get this very well mixed up with everything else in the pot. And I'm going to cover this to cook. And this should be on low heat. So about 7 minutes later, I come back to check on my stew. And because everything is already all the way cooked down or has very little moisture in it, it is very easy for you to burn your stew at this point if you don't occasionally come in to check on it and stir it. So I go in to check on my tomatoes now. It's been an hour and it is beautifully roasted. I have a little bit of caramelization going on here on some of the ingredients. As you can see, just look at how beautiful. Yes, this is going to bring flavor. That char on the tomatoes. So yes, roasted vegetables are perfect. I'm just going to transfer everything right away into my blender. Blend, and this goes into my stew. This is all liquid anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and let it go straight here. And as soon as it's blended, it goes straight into the pot to cook with everything else. And because this is already hot, I mean my blended roasted ingredients are hot, your stew will start bubbling or popping right away, so just be careful. So I'm definitely rinsing out my blender to add to this, but because of how this is splattering and popping, I don't want to hurt myself or anything. So I'm going to cover this, rinse my blender, come back and add it. So rinse blender in here, and I'm going to just cover this again and let it cook all the way down. So our stew has cooked at this point for about 20 minutes. It's doing very good here. It is, of course, splattering everywhere, so you just stir it and cover it again. And yes, that is why when I make tomato stew, I will go the extra mile and make a lot of it, because the mess it can make is just too much. It's been about 30 minutes of cooking my tomato stew, stirring it occasionally, and at this point you can see the oil has started resurfacing, and this is good now for me to start making my jollof. This is not going to be the typical tomato stew that I would cook all the way to be very, very dry, very dark, very concentrated before I make the jollof, but it's still going to be perfect. So I have here a 1.5 quart bowl. I'm going to scoop enough stew to fill it up, and like I said previously, this would have been perfect if you were going to do something else on the side. So if I was going to make wache, maybe this stew I would cook down a little bit more and put my goat's meat and everything else that will bring the wache stew flavor in it and cook it. But this is gonna sit on the side and I'll use it another day. So I have here 9 cups of rice that I'm washing. I actually mixed 5 cups of jasmine rice and 4 cups of basmati rice. That way the rice is not just too starchy, you know, just trying to find a healthy balance. I just don't like basmati on its own. It dries up, especially when you are cooking a lot of rice that you're going to have leftovers, but combining them gives a good result. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of better than bouillon in here. I purposefully didn't add it earlier on to everything because whenever I'm going to use that stew, I'll decide. I might not even put some stock. I might just put shrimp, depending on what I'm going to use it for. So I just season the rest, and I'm going to add my rice in here at this time.
Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da da. Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da da da. Delicious, delicious, da da. Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious.
I'm going to add our stock in here now. I've rinsed the pot off with about 3 cups water. Add that. Taste for salt. I think this is pretty well seasoned for me. I don't need to add any more salt. I'm also going to add some fresh rosemary. You could always use the dry one if that is what is available to you. If you don't like rosemary, then just skip it. I'm going to stir it to get my rosemary well distributed in my rice, and then I'll cover this and cook it. So about 15 minutes later, I come to check on it. This is jollof, so you definitely want to be checking on it constantly. And I'm going to stir it up just so the moisture or the stew mix that is sitting on the top will be able to mix up with everything else, so you get an evenly cooked jollof. This is a very big pot of rice, so you definitely want to be checking on it even more than you would on a smaller pot of rice. So about 5 to 7 minutes later, I come back to check and just look at this. Beautiful, gorgeous. You can see the skinny grains of the basmati in here, and you can also definitely see that it's not just basmati here, but there's jasmine as well. But these are cooking together beautifully and they are doing just right. At this point, I'm going to add my fried meat in here because it's a little bit on the tough side, and I did it purposefully so it sits here in the rice and cooks through with it, and so it is going to soak up some of the moisture from the rice. So it's not going to be just like you just put the meat on the rice, you know, it's going to pick up the color of the jollof as well, and everything is going to be just perfect this way. So I'm going to cover this and let it cook through. It's almost done. It needs about just an extra 10 minutes for it to soften up. And at this point, I'm going to start cutting up the rest of the vegetables that is going to go in the rice. So I have some cabbage, some carrots and peppers, and all these are going to go in right on the jollof instead of being cooked on the side or being served raw as a salad or slaw. And definitely, this is a lot of work, and you need to lighten up the mood with a little bit of humor and fun, okay? We need jollof. We need jollof. Ghana jollof. Delicious. There. And yes, this theme song of ours is just stuck in my head. I cannot stop singing it. Thank you all so much for the love and the support. I am so happy a lot of you like it. I love it. The moment I heard it, it was like, this is it. I didn't even have anything, like no alteration needed to be made to this. I just approved of it right away. That is how much I love this song. So anyway, I have cut up my carrots, and these are the red onions that is going to go in the jollof as well. So one large one, I'm cutting it into big pieces and just opening it up, or just separating it, and that way it goes straight on the jollof, and it's going to bring some color. Also, I have my red pepper and my yellow pepper. I'm going to cut them up as well. And all these in bigger sizes depending on how you want it. You don't want it to be super chunky, but this is perfect bite size. So everybody that you serve it to is going to have a little bit of veggies in here. Veggies are good, but of course this is also to bring a lot of color and texture and vibe and pizzazz, okay, to this. This is a holiday meal. It has to be festive. Okay, let's see how our rice is doing.
Can you smell the aroma?
This is cooked at this point, and before I add the vegetables, I'm going to dish out enough for the kids, because they can be very finicky when it comes to vegetables, and I don't want any trouble.
From what she was kitchen, yeah. Delicious, yeah. Delicious.
Do you see how blended the 2 grains of rice are, like 2 different types of rice? You could not even tell the difference, but this way your rice is not too starchy. You know, basmati is good for you because it has a lower glycemic index, but I just don't like it on it. You know, I'll eat it if I just cook it right away, but to have it the next day or anything is hard for me too. So doing it this way, you have a balance. So now I'm going to add my vegetables in here now that I have set enough aside for my kids. So the onions go in, my frozen vegetables that has corn, string beans, and as well as some snow peas also go in here, and then I've also added my peppers. I'm going to mix this so everything is well combined, and then I'll add my cabbage as well. I'm not just adding everything all at once, because then it's going to be extra hard for me to mix it up as my rice is already filling the bowl or the pot. So now that these are mixed evenly, I'm going to add the cabbage as well. And these I'm trying to flake as I put them here. I try to do that as I cut, but I can see that some of them are still together. And these I'm just going to let it sit on top of the jollof, cover, and then the steam that the jollof is going to generate will help cook it through a little bit before I mix it up. So about 5 minutes later, obviously our cabbage is very softened now. You can see that it is looking a little bit wet, and that is from the moisture that the jollof is generating, or just the steam cooking it through. And now it is a good time for me to try to stir it up and have it mixed up with the rice as well. Just look at this. Is this not beautiful? Gorgeous. This smells so good, like aroma pa, flavor pa. At this point, our rice is definitely cooked, but the vegetables are a little bit still hard. So I'm going to cover with some parchment paper. That way the steam will be trapped in here, and that will cook everything through, and our rice will be done. So I'm covering for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, I open it to check, and just look at this. The aroma that just hits you when you open this, you know, that fragrance of fresh ingredients, especially the onion cooked in the rice, and the heat, you know, when you just open it, the fragrance that hits your nose. If you haven't tried this, you need to try it. The vegetables are very well seasoned. They picked up the salt and all the flavor in the rice, and this is perfect. Beautiful, gorgeous, popping, banging, crowd pleasing, whatever you want to call this, call it, because this deserves all the accolades for sure. This is so good. I paired it with some yam balls and some kelewele, and that was all we needed. so good. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for cooking with me. I hope you are going to try this someday soon, especially if you have any plans of entertaining during this holiday period. Please, of course, do it with caution. And when those guests come around, I know for sure they are going to love this recipe. And when they fall in love with it and ask you where you got the recipe from or share your recipe, please don't forget to direct them to our channel so they will come and join this family and we'll grow together. I appreciate all of you for your love and support, for how far you've brought this channel. I can never thank you enough. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope I deserve a bunch of thumbs up today. I really think I did a good job. I outdid myself for you, dear friends and family. So please give me that thumb up and share this video. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.